In today's In the Blue training video, I want to show you exactly how to grow your practice, and it's not what you're thinking. Hey guys, I'm Dr. Corey Frogley, co-founder and CEO of BlueIQ, and I'm here today to show you how to grow your practice. Now, there's probably a million different videos I could create on this exact topic. In fact, one of the most important ones we've already created, and if you haven't watched this, you need to click the link because it's a video on one of your most important KPIs for practice growth, which is what we call net new patients. You're gonna wanna watch that, know what net new patients are and how to fix and improve that KPI. But in today's video, I wanna give you a little bit different concept of growing your practice. It's one of the more deeper rooted problems within a practice that we discovered after working with thousands of practices in this, the chiropractic vertical. And if you can fix this, you'll be blown away at the results that it will give you and help you sustain long-term growth. And it actually boils down to one word, and it's called agreements. Now, what agreements means is, I want you to think about affinity. The word affinity means, do we like each other? Do we have high affinity, we're close, or do we have low affinity, we're repelled? And we found that most patients slip away from care because they've lost affinity with your brand for one way or the other. And affinity, the way that we actually increase affinity is we make and keep agreements. So let me define this for a little bit. Where are agreements first made in the patient journey? And if you want patients not slipping away, we break down the patient journey into that patient first coming into the practice, exploring your brand, trying to connect to your brand. Is this the place that they actually want to go through this healing process? The next piece is evaluating. Now they've had enough information, they're making a decision. That typically happens in either an exam or that happens in the report of findings. And then they're really assessing after they've made a decision and they've committed, they're actually assessing, did I make the right decision? Do I have buyer's remorse? Should I have committed to this? Am I enjoying this experience? And it's in that phase that we actually lose a lot of really good patients. And it just simply comes down to, again, where do we make the agreements? Where do we set up the expectations for a patient? And that typically happens in the report of findings as we lay out a treatment plan. Now, too often and too many inexperienced providers are actually sitting down with their patient and just inviting them into a couple weeks worth of care. When you invite a patient to just go visit to visit, their expectations are set as, well, in one of these visits, I'm gonna be all better, my symptoms are gone, and I don't need these services anymore. You've got to be very clear with a patient on tissue healing and what are the true health goals of a patient. Because if a patient's goals are not just to get out of pain, but I actually want the tissue to be healthy, that's a lot more work than just getting them out of pain. We know that on average, a patient has to lose 60% function before a symptom even appears. There's got to be reality established. A patient has to make this agreement that if these are your goals, this is the commitment in time and number of visits that you're going to have to be with me on this journey. And then we use progress exams to kind of check that to make sure we're on track or off track. And do we need to make adjustments? And, you know, anything we need to do to the treatment plan to adjust that. And that's where you as a provider really have to get clear with what kind of quality of life does a patient want to live and how can you help them get there. You deliver such a high value as a provider, so different than any other healthcare provider out there. And this is why I believe that chiropractic is such an important foundation for healthcare. So that's tip number one, is laying out clear agreements, and providers are the ones that make those agreements. There's no other team member on your team that can make those agreements for you. It's got to be your treatment plan. It's got to be your agreements with your patient. Now, in saying that, there are systems out there where other team members can be empowered to present those agreements, but they're coming from the authoritative figure, and that's you. The second tip on agreements now is, now that they've been made, How do we keep agreements? How do we keep patients moving forward in those agreements? And really, this becomes the most important product or role of your front desk established patient team member. Now, I call them the established patient front team member because as your practice grows, we actually separate your front desk into an established patient and a new patient system. But with patients under care coming into the treatment team, this team member is hired, and we really are taking them and transferring those agreements to them to become the steward of those agreements. So they're making sure a patient is staying on track for those. And then we train them, we empower them of when a patient is starting to slip and not keep those appointments, what's the conversations we have with them? What's the scripts to kind of re-trigger their purpose, their commitment to those agreements? And this is a beautiful process on those progress exams to revisit those agreements. Is the patient and are we as a brand keeping agreements? If we are, high affinity, we'll have patients for life. If we're not keeping agreements, either on the patient or our side, we're gonna start seeing distance created. They're not gonna respond to your text, they're not gonna answer the phone, and we start seeing them slip away. Now, if you like this kind of content, download our front desk checklist. This helps that front desk team member really see at the end of the day, what should they be accomplishing in order to help these patients keep those agreements. Download that today, and we look forward to seeing you on another episode of In the Blue. And just simply subscribe to this channel, click the notifications so that you get notified when great content like this is coming out.